Clerks is the movie that shot Kevin Smith from complete anonymity into stardom. Smith gambled everything on this little black and white film, and it was a miraculous success. But considering what else was going on back then, it probably isn't that surprising. If I had to describe film in the early 90s, I'd say that it was characterized by the spectacular return of the independent film. Now, I know that the established directors like Oliver Stone, Martin Scorsese, and Steven Spielberg were making some of their most grandiose films throughout the 90s, but at the same time, a new group of filmmakers emerged. Most of them were Generation Xers who had grown up surrounded by pop culture, and they ended up making movies with shoestring budgets that would normally have gone unnoticed. But a number of them were more successful than anyone could have imagined. The biggest example would obviously be Quentin Tarantino. His obsession with movies led him to writing a script that caught the eye of Hollywood. It ended up costing over $1 million, it starred a cast of established names, and it shot Tarantino into instant fame. But he wasn't the only one. Richard Linklater made his own film called Slacker, and it was one of the first movies that was aimed specifically towards the Generation X audience. Robert Rodriguez put himself through medical experiments to raise a $7,000 budget for his breakout film El Mariachi. Edward Burns' $24,000 film The Brothers McMullen made a whopping $10 million after it achieved widespread release. And of course, in the middle of these other indie stars breaking out, Kevin Smith went from being a humble convenience store clerk to a Hollywood filmmaker. And it all started with this film. Clerks follows two guys in their early 20s as they sit around in a convenience store passing the time. They grumble, they argue, they joke, and they both agree that their jobs suck. Dante is a bitter, defensive guy who feels like the world is slowly crushing him out of sheer malice. He takes his job very seriously, and even when customers treat him like dirt, he keeps his anger and resent bottled up. His buddy Randall, meanwhile, works at the video rental store next door. Randall is a jaded, cynical guy who openly hates everyone that comes into his store. He lazes his way through life, and he doesn't see anything wrong with showing up half an hour late or spending his time in the convenience store with Dante. Meanwhile, in between cursing at how he's not even supposed to be here today, Dante treats his work like it's a burden of biblical proportions. And at some points, he really is a victim of bad luck. At one point, a random customer starts a riot over the fact that the store sells cigarettes. Now, I personally love this scene, mostly because of how it gets resolved. It puts the original rabble-rouser in his place, and it allows Dante's girlfriend, Veronica, to make one of the most surprisingly badass entrances ever filmed. One way to describe Veronica would be that she's one of the greatest movie girlfriends ever. She's cute, she's supportive, and while she has an interesting way of classifying certain things, she's still a great person that wants her boyfriend to succeed and be happy in life. Of course, Dante is mostly oblivious to all of this, and he secretly pines for Caitlin, who was his girlfriend in high school. Meanwhile, we also get introduced to Jay and Silent Bob, two wisecracking drug dealers played by Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith, respectively. These two characters ended up appearing as comic relief in all of Kevin Smith's View Askew-universe movies, but here they're portrayed as just another pair of young adults drifting through mediocrity. Jay is both foul-mouthed and crass, swearing endlessly and making a petty nuisance of himself. Silent Bob is the straight man to Jay's behavior, providing a boombox for music throughout the film. Of course, the big focus of the movie is Dante's interactions with Randall. Just like his inspiration, Kevin Smith relied heavily on dialogue and pop culture to really sell his movie. We get endless conversations concerning annoying customers, Star Wars, metal music, proper behavior, pornography, sex, and how much Dante hates his life. Dante and Randall contradict each other most of the time, and Dante seems more and more irritated by Randall as the film goes on. Ultimately, though, they balance each other out. Randall acts like a jackass around customers that he unapologetically despises, while Dante's self-pitying grates on Randall's ears. However, deep down, they're good friends, and they care for each other. Their dialogue is brilliantly written, it feels improvised half the time. And the two actors make Dante and Randall into a legendary pair of buddy characters. Now, of course, the movie has less of a plot and more of a stream of conscious feel to it. The movie plays out over the course of one day, where Dante ends up working on his day off, which forces him to reschedule everything that he had planned. Annoying customers come and go, problems build up, and as the day rolls on, Dante approaches that part of the movie that Kevin Smith helpfully labels as his catharsis. And what a moment it is. Dante and Randall are both given a climactic conversation, and Randall's final monologue is so well written that I've almost got it memorized after rewatching it so many times. Now, of course, I should also point out that sometimes the storyline feels a bit forced, and some scenes of dialogue aren't quite as entrancing as other scenes, but when the movie works, it really works. Despite obviously being a 90s movie aimed at Generation X, Clerks endures because people from any generation will feel lost, resentful, or just bored in their lives at some point. Clerks really embodies those feelings of doubt over how your life turned out since you left high school. The problems of these young adults are observed with a very sharp wit, but also with a lot of heart. Amongst the other indie successes of the early 90s, Clerks really shines as a film made by a movie-loving store clerk who figured that he could make movies too. And the fact that he was so successful just gives inspiration to the rest of us, who want to maybe enter that world as well.